I wasn't snooping. That's the part that still makes my skin crawl. Because I wasn't digging, wasn't suspicious. I trusted her. We were sitting in the car, parked outside the grocery store. She dashed in to grab oat milk or some other can't live without it nonsense. Her phone buzzed twice. It was right there in the cup holder. Unlocked. I had no reason to look. But I did. The screen lit up. Blake. I didn't know any Blake. I'll pick you up in 15. Get rid of that loser today, and I'll move into your house. I'll be a father to your kids. The air punched out of my lungs. My chest locked up like a trap. I read it again. And again. The words didn't change. Get rid of that loser today. That loser was me. She came back like nothing happened. Tossed the oat milk in the back seat. Kissed my cheek. My skin recoiled like it knew something I hadn't. She reeked of betrayal and designer perfume. I turned to her. Calm. Composed. But my hand clutched her phone like a live grenade. I showed her the screen. Her face drained white, like she'd seen a ghost. But the ghost was her husband, still alive, still breathing beside her. What the hell is this? I asked. My voice cracked under the weight inside me. My knuckles whitened around her phone. She froze. Blinked. Mouth open. No words. She reached for it. Too slow. I opened the message. My thumbs moved before I could think. Yes. Baby. I'll be waiting. I looked her in the eye and smiled. Not from humor. From something inside me, shattered and sharp. That smile was the thread holding back the storm. Let's go, I said. Where? She whispered. I didn't answer. Just drove. She didn't ask again. 10 minutes later, we pulled up to her parents' place. Her mom came out, cheerful, waving. I didn't wave back. Got out. Opened the passenger door. Get out. Wait, Nick, please. Get out. Her mom was approaching, confused. Everything okay, sweetheart? No, ma'am, I said, eyes fixed ahead. Your daughter's got a new man. She's moving in with him. Shouldn't be your problem anymore. Her mother's face twisted, shock, maybe horror. Good. Let them wonder. Let them choke on the silence. I drove off without another word. Parked 2 blocks from our house. Killed the engine. Sat in the dark. Watched. 10 minutes. 15. Then, there he was. A silver Mustang eased into my driveway. Some grinning clown with a fade and sunglasses, at night, stepped out. Phone in hand. Blake. He headed for the doorbell. I stepped out. Crossed the street. No, stormed. My steps hit the ground like thunder rolling in. He turned just in time. You Blake? I asked. He smiled. Yeah. And you must be. My fist smashed into his jaw before he finished. I felt it crack. He staggered into the car. I didn't stop. Grabbed his collar. Slammed him onto the hood. Once. Twice. You want to be a father to my kids? I snarled. His face twisted, pure panic. Hands raised. Helpless. He wasn't ready. They never are. I didn't know she was married, he shouted, blood dripping from his nose. Bullshit, I spat. I hurled his phone to the pavement, shattered it under my heel. You were ready to move in. She called me the loser? You don't know the storm you just walked into. By the time I finished, he was coughing blood, begging me not to call the cops. I didn't need to. That wasn't the plan. This was just the beginning. I walked back to my car, fists throbbing. Adrenaline boiling in my throat. My heart wasn't racing, it was marching. Like a war drum. She thought she could swap me out like furniture. Thought she could wipe me from my own life, like a stain. But now, I held the reins. And they had no idea what was coming next. I didn't go home that night. I drove. Hours blurred by, just me, the road, and the need to keep my fist from finding a new target. From doing something even worse than smashing Blake's smug little face. My knuckles throbbed, but not as much as the hollow bloom spreading in my chest. This wasn't pain anymore. It was colder than that. Uglier. I ended up at some gas station on the edge of nowhere. Stared at myself in the bathroom mirror. Eyes bloodshot, skin burning with leftover rage. I looked like a man who'd just buried something sacred. Because I had. Madison. My wife, who stood by me through the broke years, the layoffs, the rebuild. My ride or die. Or so I thought. We had plans, wrinkles, grandkids, a porch swing life. Now she was calling me a loser and promising forever to some budget Casanova. I laughed. Dry, hollow, bitter enough to crack glass. She wanted a new life? Fine, but not without fallout. When I finally pulled into the driveway at sunrise, the Mustang was gone. No blood, no mess. Just clean pavement where chaos had stood. Good. Let the coward vanish. I stepped into the house. Silent now. It used to feel like home, warm, lived in. Now it felt like a stage. A lie. The photos on the walls stared back at me like ghosts. Our Maui wedding. Ethan and Caleb's first birthdays. Christmas mornings wrapped in fake cheer. All poisoned now. All hollowed out by what she did. I sat at the dining table, fingers laced. My boys would wake soon. I had to put on a show, just until I figured out the next move. By 7, I heard them, tiny feet pattering down the hallway. Caleb climbed into my lap, still half dreaming. Ethan rubbed his eyes, dragging his bear. "Where's Mommy?" he asked. "Visiting Grandma," I said. Lie number 1. Game on. I dropped them at school like always. Smiled, waved, acted whole. But inside, I was split clean through. Back in the car, I called a lawyer. "Divorce?" she asked. "Not yet," I said. "I need advice. Strategy. And I want the house. The kids. All of it." We booked a meeting for that afternoon. But first, I needed proof. I went home and tore through everything. Drawers. Closet. Laptop. I wasn't proud. Pride was a luxury I could no longer afford. And then I found it. A burner phone, tucked inside a tampon box, buried deep in the bathroom cabinet. What I saw inside made my skin crawl. Made my stomach turn. Messages. Dozens. Months of filth and whispers. Pictures. Plans. A double life, built brick by brick behind my back. "You'll never have to work again," Blake wrote. "I can't wait to wake up next to you and never see Nick's pathetic face again," she replied. Pathetic. That word punched harder than any fist. She wasn't just cheating, she was replacing me, erasing me, smiling in my face while carving me out of my own world. But I wasn't bleeding anymore. I was building. And Madison, my sweet, venom-tongued Madison, had no idea the storm she'd summoned. By the time she walked through the door 2 days later, I was ready. She strolled in like it was just another Tuesday, humming some go-doffel pop tune, groceries in hand, like she hadn't just set fire to everything we'd built. I stood in the kitchen, arms folded, eyes locked on her. She felt it. The silence. The weight of it. Her smile stuttered. "Hey," she said carefully. "Everything okay?" I didn't answer. Just stared. She blinked. "Why are you looking at me like that? You really gonna pretend?" Her face twitched. That fake innocence she wore like perfume cracked around the edges. Pretend what? I pulled the burner phone from my pocket and tossed it onto the table. It landed soft, but to us, it might as well have been a bomb. Her face went pale, drained of every lie she ever told. "Go ahead," I said. "Unlock it." My voice cut through the room like a blade. She didn't move. "Unlock the phone." "I don't know what that is," she whispered, like a coward behind enemy lines. I laughed, sharp, hollow. "You must really think I'm stupid. You hid it in a tampon box. Classy. Still nothing. No words. No shame. Just silence." So I opened it myself. Scrolled through the filth. Read a few gems aloud like a sermon from hell. "Can't wait to feel your hands on me again. Nick's still clueless." I paused. "That one's cute." Her lips quivered, but not from guilt. From fury. Like I was the traitor. Like she had any right to feel anything but shame. "You went through my stuff?" she snapped. I slammed my hand on the table. The salt shaker jumped. "You lied to me for months," I shouted. "And that's what you're mad about? That I found the truth." She flinched. But she didn't back down. That's who she was. A woman who could destroy you with a smile and still act like you owed her an apology. "I wasn't happy," she said. No sh*t. I rolled my eyes. Affairs usually come with that line. "I didn't plan it," she whispered. "It just happened." "Right?" I said, stepping closer. Like falling into traffic. Or tripping into someone else's bed. It was different with him. That one hit harder than I expected. Straight to the gut. "So you love him?" I asked. Silence. I nodded. "Got it." She finally looked away. Couldn't hold my stare anymore. "You were so focused on work. On bills. On being responsible. I needed more." I almost laughed. The sound twisted in my throat. "So being a husband and a father wasn't enough? Paying for the car, the house, the oat milk, wasn't romantic enough for you?" I felt invisible, she said. Tears brimming now, voice trembling. "You were invisible," I said coldly. "Because the woman I married, the one who smiled at me in Maui, that woman disappeared a long time ago." She turned away, wiping her face like it meant something. Like her tears could wash away the poison. "So what now?" she asked. "You want a divorce?" I stared at her. My voice dropped to ice. No, not yet. Her brows pinched together. Then what? I want you to stay. Sleep in the guest room. Tell the kids we're going through a rough patch. Why? She whispered, already breaking. I leaned in, close enough to feel her breath hitch. Because I want you to feel it, Madison. The weight of every lie. Every fake smile. Every time you let him touch you. Then came home to me. I stepped back. I want you to sit in this house and choke on the guilt. I want you to watch it all crumble. Piece by piece. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I turned and walked away. War had begun, and I wasn't surrendering. The days that followed felt like living in a museum made of glass. Beautiful, but brittle. Fragile. Cold. She stayed, just like I told her. Played house in the guest room. Smiled for the kids. Asked about homework. Kissed their foreheads like she still had the right. But I saw it. The cracks in her porcelain act. The twitch in her eye when I didn't say good morning. The way she flinched when I called her Madison, not babe. I wasn't silent. No, silence would have been mercy. I was calm. Controlled. Lethal. I thanked her when she passed the salt. Nodded coldly at her lasagna. Helped fold laundry. And while I did, I dropped little grenades in the middle of our everyday. Blake likes white wine, right? This sweater, didn't you wear it the night you said you were at Sarah's? Funny. Our wedding vows talked about loyalty. She never responded. Just blinked, lips tight, eyes shiny. Unraveling. Slowly. And I relished every second. One night, I heard her crying behind the guest room door. Quiet sobs. Raw. Maybe she thought I'd come in. Hold her. Fix it. But that man, he was gone. I spent those nights at the gym, punishing the rage out of my body. Or in my truck, rereading the messages on her burner phone. Over and over. I memorized every line. Every baby, every promise. They were fuel. Focus. Proof that her tears weren't regret. They were fear. Fear of losing the life she'd taken for granted. I started documenting everything. Screenshots. Evidence. Receipts. Because this war had only begun. Photos. Financials. I wasn't about to be the guy blindsided in court while the woman who tore our life apart walked off with the house, the kids, and half my future. No. This time, I'd be the one holding the blade. Then came the letter. Plain white envelope. No stamp. Just slid under the front door like a warning. No return address. No name. Just a single photograph inside, Blake. Standing in front of our local daycare. Smiling. Holding a little stuffed bear. My heart stopped cold. I stared at the photo for a full minute. Burned it into my brain. Then I sprinted through the house like a madman. Checked every room. The boys were safe. Madison was asleep upstairs. But that image wouldn't leave me. Blake, outside my kids' daycare. The next morning, after school drop-off, I waited in the kitchen. She was pouring coffee when I slapped the photo down on the table. What the hell is this? Her hand shook as she picked it up. I don't know. Don't lie, I snapped. I didn't tell him to go there. I swear, she stammered, eyes wide and full of panic. I stood up so fast the chair screeched across the floor. If he ever comes near my kids again, I'll make what happened last time look like a damn hug. She flinched. I'll tell him to stay away. Please, Nick. I leaned in, voice like ice. You will tell him. And if he doesn't listen, I'll bury him. She nodded, trembling. I walked away before I said something I couldn't pull back. But I knew then, this wasn't just revenge anymore. This was war. Not just about pride. Not just pain. This was protection now. My family. My blood. The thing about betrayal, it doesn't end where the truth begins. You catch the lie. You bleed. But it echoes. In glances. In footsteps. In every quiet corner of the house where someone used to love you. And now, only ghosts remain. I wasn't done. Not by a mile. That photo at the daycare? That was escalation. And it demanded one thing from me. Intel. So I took it up a notch. No more sitting back. I wanted to know everything. Where Blake worked. Where he lived. Who he lived with. Hell, what brand of toothpaste he used. So I called Jax. Old friend. Took a darker path. Knew how to dig and disappear. I want everything on this guy, I told him. Where he sleeps. Who he talks to. What he hides. I want leverage. You think he's dangerous? Jax asked. He's either stupid or crazy. He thinks he can replace me. Jax smirked. This might be fun. 2 days later, I had a folder thicker than a novel. Blake was a disaster. Max credit cards. 2 failed businesses. An ex with a restraining order from 2019. And the Mustang? Leased. under a fake LLC. The guy was a walking red flag wrapped in cologne, the kind of man Madison used to laugh at. Now she was wrapped around him like he was her savior. I didn't show her the file. Not yet. That was my ace. My insurance. For the day she tried to take the kids. Or play the victim again. But I didn't need it right away, because something in her shifted. She started cooking more. Asking about my day. Cleaning like she was trying to scrub herself off the furniture. Sometimes, I'd catch her in the doorway of the bedroom. Watching me. Hoping. I made your favorite, she said one night. Grilled salmon, asparagus. A plate held out like peace. I'm not hungry, I said. I's never leaving the TV. Nick, she whispered. Please. What? I snapped, locking onto her. You think dinner's gonna fix this? Think asparagus is the antidote to betrayal? To building a new life behind my back while sleeping in my bed? Her eyes welled up. That old trick. But this time, she didn't look away. I made a mistake. No, I said, rising to my feet. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. What you did, that takes planning. Commitment. She opened her mouth again, but I was already walking. Right past her. Straight into the garage. I needed air. Silence. Anything but her. I sat in the car, staring at the wall. Let the numbness creep in. Then, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Unknown, we need to talk. Madison isn't who you think she is. Neither is Blake. My heart froze. Thumbs hovered. I typed, who is this? Unknown. Let's just say I've been where you are. Meet me tomorrow. 9 p.m. Parking lot behind Seeger's Hardware. I read the message 3 times. First instinct, trap. But my gut said no. The tone was too steady. Too deliberate. It felt like someone just dropped a match into a forest I thought I'd already burned down. So I made my choice. Tomorrow night, I'd walk straight into the dark. I had to know how deep this hole went. Because Madison wasn't just a liar. She might be something else entirely. Something colder. The night clung to the air, thick with heat and silence. Even the crickets had gone quiet as I pulled into the lot behind Seeger's. One street lamp buzzed overhead, flickering like it was deciding whether to give out. 9 p.m. on the dot. I killed the engine. Sat still for a moment, hand on the glove box where my old Beretta waited. Insurance. I wasn't dumb. Then he appeared. A man stepped out from behind the dumpster, tall, lean, hoodie pulled low, red Sox cap shadowing his face. His steps were measured, like a man who'd done this before. I opened my door, but stayed behind it. You the one texting me? I asked, voice flat. He nodded. Name's Carter. What the hell do you want? He looked around, then stepped closer, just enough for the light to catch his face. Mid-30s, pale, eyes like he hadn't slept in years. I was married to her, he said. I stared. To Madison? He shook his head. No. Blake's ex. Her name was Lacey. That hit harder than I expected. Madison never mentioned a Lacey. Of course not. Madison and Lacey, Carter continued. Best friends in college. Soul sucker twins. The air turned colder. Lacey caught Blake cheating with 2 different women. One of them was Madison. My pulse skipped. My mind didn't want to believe it, but it fit. They were running scams, Carter said. Fake real estate deals. Loan fraud. Madison played the fake client, helped seal the fake loans. She's not just cheating on you, Nick. She's partnering with him. You're lying, I said. But my voice didn't carry the conviction. Not anymore. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a flash drive, and dropped it onto the hood of my car. Watch it. What's on it? Phone calls. Emails. Transfers. I've been collecting evidence for 3 years. Blake and Madison, they're not in love. They're building a back door, and you're the fool meant to pay for it. My hands clenched. I could feel the rage buzzing through my knuckles. Why give this to me? Because I lost everything, he said. My house. My kids. My mind. I let them win. You still have a shot. Then he turned and disappeared into the shadows, like he was never there. I didn't go home. I found a 24-hour diner. Sat in a corner booth with a cup of black coffee and my laptop. The flash drive sat between us like a ticking bomb. My heart pounded as I plugged it in. Folders appeared. Organized. Dated. Names. Transactions. And then, one file caught my eye. A video. Time-stamped. 3 weeks ago. I clicked play. Grainy footage filled the screen. Madison, sitting across from Blake in a cheap hotel room. Her hair pulled back. Smiling. I'll distract Nick, she said, smooth as silk. You just make sure the paperwork clears before the 15th. Once he signs it, He won't even know the money's gone until it's too late. Blake laughed. You're evil, Mats. She leaned across the table and kissed him. Only for you. I slammed the laptop shut. My jaw clenched so tight I could taste blood. This wasn't just betrayal. This was execution. Cold. Calculated. They weren't trying to leave me. They were trying to erase me. But now it was personal. They wanted a clean escape. I'd be the fire they never saw coming. By the time I walked through that front door, I wasn't the man who'd left it. Something had fractured. Or maybe finally hardened. The heartbreak, the grief, the shame, it was still there. But buried now. Buried beneath something sharper. Strategy. Resolve. Rage. Iced over. Sharp. Deliberate. Madison was curled on the couch, pretending to read. She glanced up when I walked in, eyebrows lifted in gentle surprise. You're back, she said, soft as a whisper. Yeah. I hung my keys on the hook. Just needed to clear my head. She studied me, searching for weakness, regret, guilt, anything to grab onto. But she found nothing. Because there was nothing left to give her. I ordered Thai, she offered. Your favorite. Panang curry. I nodded. Great. Thanks. That night, I played the part. Ate the curry. Watched a cartoon with the boys. Laughed when Caleb did his silly voice impressions. Calm. Collected. But beneath it all, I was setting traps. Stacking dominoes. At midnight, when the house surrendered to silence, I moved like a shadow, ghosting into the guest room. Her purse was on the floor. Phone still in it. Still no passcode. Too cocky. Or too careless. I forwarded every damning email. Every screenshot with Blake. Every bank alert. Every line of text that spelled betrayal. Once he signs the equity papers, he'll be out of the picture. The next morning, I made the call. Carter, it's me. You watch everything? All of it. You ready? Oh, I'm past ready. We met in broad daylight. Coffee shop. Public. Safe. Carter slid 2 documents across the table. 1, an affidavit from Lacey, detailing the scams, the shell companies, Madison's role in laundering Blake's money. 2, a notarized statement from a former employee at Blake's fake LLC. Every transaction. Every false name. Every lie. I was building a weapon. All I needed now was a courtroom. I met with my lawyer. Laid it all out. Videos, screenshots, bank records. He leaned back, stunned. If we play this right, he said, she doesn't just lose custody. She might face criminal charges. I nodded. Good. Let her rot. But first, I had to keep the mask on. Smile through the venom. Pretend like we were healing. Madison leaned into the illusion. She started dressing up again. Wore lipstick to breakfast. Giggled at her own jokes. Checked herself in the mirror like she still had a chance. She didn't realize she was walking into her own eulogy. Friday morning, the alert came through. Blake wired $40,000 into one of our joint accounts, the one she assumed I never watched. I tracked the source, the destination, the intention. She was about to move stolen money under my name. I waited until dinner. She'd made chicken parmesan, set the table with the good plates, even lit candles, like we were playing house again. The boys finished eating. I sent them to play. Then I slid my plate away, looked her dead in the eyes. You should tell the boys now, I said. She blinked. Tell them what? That you're leaving. For good. Her fork slipped, clinked against porcelain. What are you talking about? I've seen the videos. The fake accounts. The money. The hotel meetings. I leaned in. I know everything, Madison. She paled. Nick. No more lies. No more fake tears. No more dinners with arsenic under the sauce. She stood up fast. You have no proof. I reached into my pocket. Placed the flash drive on the table. It landed like a gavel. Carter says hi, I added. Her knees gave out. She dropped back into her chair. Eyes wide. Mouth slack. She stared at the flash drive like it was radioactive. Her hand hovered. Didn't touch it. Couldn't. Carter, she breathed. You talked to Carter? I leaned back, arms folded. Yeah. He had a lot to say. And even more receipts. She looked away. Pressed her palm to her forehead like it could block the avalanche coming. I could see the panic spinning behind her eyes, trying to script a comeback. A defense. But the queen was cornered. And she knew it. You're making a huge mistake, she whispered. She finally spoke, voice low, shaky. You think this is going to help the kids? You think dragging their mother through hell makes you the good guy? I slammed my palm against the table. Hard. Don't. You. Dare. She flinched. You were ready to leave them, I hissed. Trade your own sons for a clown who can't keep a business alive longer than a carton of milk. You were going to hand their future to a con man. I leaned in, eyes burning. So don't you dare pull the mother card now. Her face changed. The tears dried up like they were never real. That sweet wife mask. Gone. What was left was the real Madison. Cold. Sharp. Vicious. So what, she spat. You want revenge? You think that makes you noble? You think some judge is going to care about your little drama? I smiled. Calm. Deadly. I don't need drama, I said. I've got facts. I've got testimony. And I've got time. I stood tall, eyes locked on hers. Every day you sit in this house, you're breathing air I let you breathe. That ends tomorrow. You can't kick me out, she snapped. This is my home too. It was, I growled. Paid for with my money. Under my name. And as of this morning, there's a restraining order filed with the court. Pending your response, you'll be out by the end of the week. Her face twisted in fury. You bastard. I reached down, grabbed the flash drive, and turned away. Where are you going? She screamed after me. To finish what you started. 3 days later, she was gone. I watched from the living room window as she loaded her designer luggage into her sister's car. No tears. No goodbye. Just one last seething glare through the glass, like I was the villain in her story. I smiled and waved. 1 week later, the judge gave me full temporary custody. No visitation. Not until the fraud investigation finished. The DA opened a case on Blake. Carter's evidence went deeper than we'd thought. Bank fraud, identity theft, mail fraud. The guy was going down. For a long time. As for Madison, her face hit the local news once the case reached public record. I saved the clip. The neighborhood sweetheart turned scandal headline. Some nights, I sit on the porch and try to understand it all. How the woman I married became a stranger in my bed. A ghost soaked in secrets and perfume. How she kissed me, laughed with me, while digging my grave behind my back. But then Ethan runs out with his science project. Caleb shows me a crayon drawing of the three of us under a giant yellow sun. And I remember what matters. They tried to erase me. But I didn't just survive. I won. So here's my advice. If you ever find a message like the one I did, don't just confront it.